3. We have all been there. Your industry is shifting, a project is in limbo, or a reorganization is looming. As a leader, your instinct is to wait. You tell yourself, I will speak to the team once I have all the facts. I don't want to overpromise. But while you're waiting for that perfect data point, something dangerous is happening in your office. According to a study published in Nature Communications, uncertainty is actually more stressful to the human brain than knowing a negative outcome is certain. Wow. When you are silent, your team isn't waiting with you. Their brains are entering into a state of high alert, a threat response that kills creativity and fuels the rumor mill. In fact, Gallup research shows that during the times of change, the lack of clarity is the number one driver of employee burnout. Today, we are joined again by Salvatore Manzi, who is the author of the hit book Clear and Compelling. Last time, we talked with Salvatore about our organizational trust. Today, we are getting tactical. We are diving into the uncertainty framework, a practical roadmap for how to lead, speak, and command a room when the data is incomplete and the destination is still moving. Salvatore, it's a pleasure to welcome you back to the show.
Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to be back with you.
Salvatore, now you know me. You know that I'm interested about science, how the brain processes information, and I want to learn as much as possible from you. Neuroscience tell us the brain treats uncertainty the same way it treats a physical threat. When a leader is silent because they don't have all the facts, what is actually happening inside the brains of these employees, his employees?
Yeah, this is important, and you touched on it in your introduction. There is a need for clarity, and that lack of clarity clarity supersedes certainty. Clarity is more important in the brain because without clarity, or if there's silence during uncertainty, that uncertainty energy will create a survival mode mechanism. It's because the brain operates through predictions. Our brains are constantly monitoring the environment and seeing patterns. Based on those patterns, they're making predictions of what's going to happen. Ambiguity, uncertainty activates the amygdala, it releases cortisol, adrenaline, turns us into fight, flight, freeze. And anytime that we are experiencing uncertainty, our brain is going to switch to self-preservation. And this causes collaboration to drop. I'm not looking out for the team. I'm looking out for self-preservation. It causes productivity to drop because I'm not concerned about achieving that next thing. I'm concerned about my own well-being at this time. So it's kind of like being in a fog. If you're walking through the fog, it's more important to have a torch than it is to actually know the destination. I don't need to be certain about the destination. I need a torch that's going to light the way, even just a little bit. And a leadership who speaks in times of uncertainty is that torch. They don't need to have all the answers, but they need to avoid silence that's going to cause the employees to start filling those gaps with worst case scenarios.
I like this analogy with the fog because I can easily imagine while you were talking that this fog penetrates your brain and you are actually not listening to anything because you are worried. You are acting into scenario based. At least when you have bad news, you are going to focus a little bit more about solutions rather than uncertainty that is making our brain even more foggy.
Yeah. It's a principle of when there's uncertainty, your brain is trying to handle emotional processing, which is difficult. When there's even a little bit of clarity, the brain switches from emotion to rational. And with rational, even if it's bad news, I can begin planning on a rational mindset of what my next step is going to be.
Mm, Let me get back to your book. So
Yeah.
back in the days when it was launched, I remember that I have read it and I really enjoyed because it was the first time that I felt that it was speaking to a person like me. I know a couple
Oh,
of things, but this was practical and this was talking my language. It was talking the language of understanding human beings. It wasn't about tactics. It was a little bit about the planning on how I should engage with other people. So in your book, Clear and Compelling, you outline a framework for communicating when data is incomplete.
mhm.
Is it possible for for my audience to walk us through those steps? And what I'm interested also is what would be the first sentence out of the leader's mouth?
In a moment of uncertainty, the first sentence needs to be, I'm here, I'm with you, and here's what I know. I can't say it's going to be contextual to the situation and how that leader typically shows up, but I do offer a framework for leading through uncertainty, and it's four simple steps. Step number one is to state the obvious. This is what we know, this is what we don't know. This allows the listeners, your team, to feel validated in that moment that they're not crazy. There is something going on here. And it speaks to there's still a lot unknown, but because it's being named as unknown, it switches to the rational mind and can be controlled in some way. Once you have stated this is what we know and what we don't know, the second thing is as a leader, take a stand. This is what I think, and this is what I'm committed to doing. What this does is it gives your team an opportunity to see the person that they have and placed in a role of authority. They get to understand their decision-making process and they see the path that that person is taking. Very important. This is what we know. This is what we don't know. This is what I believe and what I'm committed to doing. Third step is to invite them to participate. No one likes to be told, go wait over there until we have more information. Or why don't you go wait over there until I tell you something to do? No one wants to be told to just sit and wait. They just perseverate and go into a negative space. Invite them to begin preparing, observe, start preparing in this way, strengthen these things, build agility. Giving them a role allows them to move out of the inertia and into movement, which breaks down that feeling of uncertainty and channels it into something healthy and productive. This is what I know, what I don't know. This is what I think and what I'm committed to. This is what you can do. And finally, this is why it's important. Tie it back on that fourth and final step, tie it back to the big picture of where this is going and why this moment of uncertainty matters. It validates the room and it helps everybody feel the action forward.
Hmm. In fact, the way I read your framework is almost like acting, fighting together, that the distance between the leader and the team is highly reduced in order that they feel belonging, that they are in it together. Because
Mm,
if you have this talk about that doesn't the uh, propagate enough information, there is a distance. It's like something he's hiding something. So there is even more distance, and we cannot solve any problem as a team if you feel like there is the hierarchy that is in the middle, right?
yeah, yeah. There needs to be a sense of we're in this together. And if the leader is off in silence or planning on their own, it doesn't feel like we're together. And if we're not together, I need to be looking out for myself. I need to start looking at my own survival, i.e., not collaborating, not being productive, doing my own thing over here. So moving into that sort of framework of sharing helps to bring the group together and create clarity and vision forward.
Hmm. I have seen, not very often, but from time to time it happens that certain of the companies that I work with are in the middle of a merger and acquisition. And this is the moment where everybody says, oh, I cannot say anything. And people are nervous because they fear to lose their job. They fear that the new culture is going to be different. I still remember that it was specifically the case of a Dutch company being acquired by French company. And you know how much
Mm.
people hate French people, huh? right? So, so they were
No.
fearful about the mentality, about the culture. How is it going to be? I mean, I was joking about the French stuff, but anyways, we always have like something that we imagine about French people. I wanted to understand, Salvatore. So, in this case where information is changing daily, is it better to give a long form of update once a week or a 2 minute pulse check in every day? How often should we communicate when there is this uncertainty of information?
Yeah, this is a great question in that it's difficult to find that sweet spot. How much is too much? How often is too often? How what's the value if it does it diminish the value if I give too many updates? Does it water it down? What research shows is that trust grows through predictability.
Mm,
So frequency is going to be contextual to the level of uncertainty, right? But the brain again focuses it prioritizes clarity over certainty. So if there's brief moments of clarity over distant but dense moments of certainty, the brain is going to prioritize the clarity. Let me make it a different way. The frequent short updates is going to serve better during a transition, like the one you're speaking, than a dense download. And will do. Uh, I think of it like this. Think of it like a lighthouse. A
mm,
lighthouse on the shore is a light scans by. The ships out there, they don't need this floodlight along the shore the whole time. They just need a pulse every now and then to re-emphasize where the line is. Same thing. If I'm an employee and my leader is giving me a regular, brief update, that predictability starts to create trust. At some point, I'm going to want a deeper download of what's going on, explain it more. But if I'm getting the brief, regular check-ins, the lighthouse is going in a way that's going to help me keep track of things and feel a sense of calm so that I can keep moving forward. And to your point, mergers are intense and they unfold and they start from the moment it's announced and they go for years afterwards because of the merging of the stepchildren trying to get along afterwards. And there needs to be a trust that's built from the beginning around that predictability of short bursts of clarity while certainty is being formed and built.
So if I understand you correctly, it's not even important that we do it once per day or once per week, as long there is a frequency that we can expect. So we know that
Exactly.
in the next meeting we will get more info. Even
Right.
if you decide to do it once per day, that it doesn't matter. So, what matters is that I know when it's next I'm going to have a little bit of information, or even if there is no new information, that I'm going to have a moment of empathy and to feel that we are in this together.
And what you just said is important. Even when there's no new information, it's still important to maintain that consistency because that consistency is building trust. So even don't cancel the meeting because there's no update. Keep the meeting and tell them that there's no new news. Answer any questions and keep going. Canceling that frequency begins to splinter trust. So regular, whether it's daily or weekly during a transition, is going to create that trust, to build trust so that they can follow through the uncertainty together.
Mm. In these moments of uncertainty, is there a way for a leader to give their team a sense of stability without making promises?
Mm.
That it can be promises that can be broken a little bit later because information changes. Uh, is is there something that people can say so that I feel that I'm not in an earthquake, regardless of the situation?
I love that. It's the want is to have a sense of stability, and we would love a promise. Please promise to me Commit to me a certainty that's going to happen. But we know inherently that certainty is never a full certain thing. When a leader can express the transparency around the decision making, that's where trust gets built. So rather than trying to give a sense of stability based on the certainty of an outcome, which is not predictable, give a transparency around the decision making. And when your team understands the decision process that went through, then they're going to be able to trust you more. I'll put it this way. You've probably been on a plane that experienced turbulence.
Yeah.
And when the plane is experiencing turbulence and then takes a sharp bank to the right or elevates very sharply, everybody in the cabin is like, what's going on right now? And so the pilot can just stay silent,
Mm.
not say anything. Leave everybody going, okay, what's going on? No one's talking. They get frustrated, right? Not a good pull. The pilot could get on and say, we had some turbulence. We will not have turbulence anymore. Everybody's like, yeah, right. Have you ever flown before? That's not a reality. Or the pilot could get on and say, we experienced some turbulence, so I altered our course slightly to avoid any more.
Mm.
That little bit of explaining the decision process helps everybody in the cabin's brains calm down. We don't need certainty. We need clarity around the decision making. So I would offer this to leaders. Your team needs to know how, not what. Explain the decision making process that you're going through rather than promising any supposed outcome that you hope for.
I love that. Now, usually we communicate to get people to act, to do an action. How do you give a call to action when the final destination is still moving? We don't know if we are
Yeah.
going to land in the airport in Texas or in New York.
And I think this is especially relevant for leaders that are used to having more of a here's the end point, this is where we're going to end up, and this is where we're going. How do you give an action when that end point is still undetermined? Again, I would kind of tack back to the idea of preparation because in times of uncertainty, the action that you want to inspire is towards preparation. Again, the when the brain senses emotional uncertainty, it goes into emotional processing, which is difficult. When it knows that there is a positive next step to take, it can switch to rational processing and begin taking that next step. Movement towards anything is a great way to eliminate the perseveration and the challenges that come up with that uncertainty. Imagine, I don't know if you've ever sailed before. Have you ever sailed on a sailboat?
I yes, but I'm really bad, and I get scared a little bit. And you know what? My rational thinking goes against me because when I'm sailing, I'm thinking about how does it work. I'm thinking too much instead of being intuitive.
Oh, I love where
It's
you took this. I love where you took this because you can go too far into trying to explain the mechanics of. So there is a sweet spot in there, right? We're not giving the destination. I'm not inspiring you to take action towards a specific destination. That's not going to work because we don't know what the destination is. But we need to inspire action towards preparation. And if I'm on a sailboat, I'm not going to be telling everybody, imagine the port that we're going to get through, right? Just imagine that port. We keep aiming on the. No, we're in a fog. What we need to do is we need to man the sails, we need to look the lines, we need to check the instruments, we need to check the communication, and not overwhelm people to put all the responsibility of all of that on one person, but to give that person their own sense of agency around what they know how to do. So, what is it that you do well? I want you to observe. I want you to react. I want you to report into me what you're seeing. I want you to help us build a more prepared structure for what might anticipate based on what you're perceiving. It's step number three in the framework. That's how you give a call to action without sending people down this rabbit hole of we have to get to this destination.
It happens very often that leaders, and let's be frank, specifically men, feel that they have to solve the uncertainty. I don't know if that happened to you, Salvatore, but it happens to me. I really need to find solutions for everything. Is there a practical way to validate the team's discomfort without sounding like you have lost control of the situation?
I appreciate where we're going in here, and I just want to have a caveat that I think the brain is a problem solver, right? The brain, you ask the brain a question, it's going to look for the solution. That's just the way we're programmed. And when there is a problem, our tendency is to want to actually provide a solution and dismiss the impact of uncertainty. But that's not showing respect to the feeling that we're all having. Naming the reality is actually strengthening a person's position of authority. So
Yes.
not saying, hey, this is how I'm going to solve this, or hey, this is the problem and I know how to fix it. That is not the way that you establish authority. It's naming the reality is actually going to strengthen a person's authority. Because when I name the discomfort, it increases trust. It offers a sense of validation.
Hmm.
It causes people not to wonder if the worst case scenario is going to happen because this person doesn't have all of the um, factors that need to be considered. Imagine again going back to the turbulence on a plane. The flight attendant, when there's turbulence, it doesn't deny that there's turbulence happening, and it doesn't rush to the cockpit in a panic either. It doesn't try to fix it. They calmly walk down and they acknowledge, they attend to any of the needs that are showing up. And that presence is what creates trust. So, in those moments where I want to solve the problem, know that I need to validate the discomfort while naming the decision-making process that will signal an awareness and care and a sense of command.
Hmm. I, I want to come back because it's turning your framework to deal with uncertainty is so intuitive. So I love the fact that you have put it in 4 steps. This is what we know. This is what we don't know. This is what I think. Number two, inviting other people to share and give inputs also. Uh, and to summarize it with the big statement like, this is why this is important. That's something like, it looks easy, but the reality, of course, is going to be a little bit messy. But this is something that we can practice. And I guess we have in a day-to-day basis, even personal situations where this framework can be useful. You don't have to try it once at work because you can use it at home sometimes, right?
Yes, use it with your partners at the breakfast table. What time will you be home? Well, this is what we know, this is what we don't know. This is what I think and what I'm going to do. And this is what you can do to help us prepare for this. And this is why it's important. Keep
I'm looking
practicing it in the low stakes situations because when it gets to that high stakes situation and the heat is on, you want to have developed the muscle to use the framework fluidly.
Hmm. Now, thinking about the situation, if a leader is sitting in his office right now, staring at a half-finished slide deck because they're waiting for one more piece of information before they talk to the team, what is the one clear and compelling, like your book, reason they should close the laptop and go talk to them right now? Forget about having all the information. What could be that unique reason?
Speak before it feels comfortable. Tracking back to what we said, even a short burst of clarity can offer a great deal of value. It can increase collaboration and productivity. It can silence the perseveration and fears of worst case scenarios. I understand the tendency to want to wait for that last bit of information before I go out there. But a good rule of thumb is If you feel lost, they feel lost.
Mm,
And even a brief run of through the framework with them is going to switch from self-survival to preparedness. I'd offer the analogy of sitting in a hospital waiting room.
mm,
Doors are locked. No one's at the reception desk. No one knows what's going on. Anxiety is increasing, increasing. As soon as the doctor walks out, explains the delay, names the process, talks about what's going to be happening next, the room begins to settle and trust once again. The doctor didn't come out with all the answers, didn't have that last bit of information or the PowerPoint that was perfectly prepared, but it was able to calm the room at a time that it needed to. So if you feel lost, they feel lost. Take a moment to do a short burst of clarity in that, and you'll start building trust, collaboration, and preparedness.
mm. Salvatore, I have to be sincere that your book, Clear and Compelling, what I like the most is that it is not about giving you lessons about this is how Steve Jobs is doing it, but it allows you to have a system so that you don't have to overthink about how to do the things. It's rather like a discovery mode that your brain starts functioning so that you don't
Yeah.
have like a secret recipe, but something to start doing the trial and error and to
Mhm.
pivot when necessary to improve and at every how do you sprint in yeah
Right. Yeah.
to every
Thank
sprint.
you. It warms my heart that you're sharing it this way. It was my intention to offer strategies, principles, frameworks that people could try on. Take a day, just try this strategy for a whole day, see what happens, how it works for you in your context.
Yeah.
What do you learn from it and keep growing? You're making me feel great. Thank you so much for reading my book and speaking so highly of it. I feel honored.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to read your book, by the way. That was a nice gesture to offer me the book. Um, Salvatore, tell me, so today, if somebody wants to know a little bit more about these frameworks, uh, how do they proceed? Do I rush to get another copy of the book, or do I go and rush and have a chat with you so that I can benefit of some real stuff?
Come chat with me. If any part of this conversation resonated, come chat with me. I would offer this. Go to clearandcompellingplaybook.com.
Mm?
Clearandcompellingplaybook.com. You can download the uncertainty framework right there. You can sign up and you can get the download, and it'll keep you updated when the actual book is going to come out. It should be coming out later this year. It's going to be released through a publisher, and I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear how the framework works. I have found every leader stumbles over one of those four steps. Which was the step that was harder for you to do? Which one was easy? Let's work together and make it fluid for everyone.
Despite the fact that you are fully recognized uh, on communication, Salvatore, I think that you are so accessible that you wouldn't even say no to if somebody contacts you on LinkedIn, which I'm going to put, by the way,
Yeah.
your LinkedIn profile so that they chat with you. They have a chat with you. That would be great.
Yes.
Salvatore, it was a pleasure again to be with you. Really wonderful to have this discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you so much. And thank you to everyone that is listening.